The human ship landed on the red plains of Carvan under a sky filled with slow-moving clouds. The planet was dry, harsh, and proud, much like the people who ruled it. For the first time in many cycles, humans had been invited to observe the trial grounds of the Varkesh, a warrior species known across the galaxy for strength, honor, and unbreakable laws. Lieutenant Aaron Vale stepped off the transport with steady boots and a calm face. He was young by human standards, but his eyes showed years of battle. He wore no heavy armor, only his standard field uniform. He had been chosen not because he was the strongest, but because he listened, learned, and did not panic when surrounded by beings twice his size. Around him stood the Varkesh warriors, tall, broad. Their skin carried dark patterns like stone cracked by heat. Each one carried weapons older than many civilizations. They watched the human the way hunters watched unfamiliar prey, not with fear but with judgment. Aaron had read the briefings. The Varkesh respected law above all else. Their society was built on rituals that decided rank, honor, and even lifelong bonds. Humans were warned again and again, do not interfere. Do not touch their weapons. Do not react to provocations. Aaron planned to follow every rule. The trial grounds were wide and open. Stone pillars surrounded the arena, carved with symbols that told stories of ancient victories. At the center stood a single platform where elders observed in silence. Today's trials were meant to show strength among Varkesh warriors, but the presence of humans had added tension to the air. Among the warriors stood Kalira. She was known even among her people as fierce and proud. Her armor was dark, her spear long and balanced perfectly for killing throws. She had earned her place through combat, not birth. To her, humans were a question mark, small, soft, and strange. She did not hate them. She simply did not believe they belonged on warrior ground. When her eyes fell on Aaron, something sharp stirred inside her. Not fear, not interest, something closer to offense. The elders announced the next trial, a ceremonial spear throw meant to display focus and dominance. Normally, this was done between Varkesh only, but whispers moved through the crowd. Some wanted the human tested, others wanted him gone. Kalira made the decision before anyone could stop her. She stepped forward, her claws tightening around the spear. The motion was sudden enough to draw gasps. An elder began to rise, but tradition froze him in place. Once a challenge began, it could not be halted. Aaron saw the movement too late. The spear left Kalira's hand like lightning. It was not meant as a warning. It was meant to prove a point. If the human moved slow, if he screamed, if he died, it would confirm everything. Time slowed. Aaron did not think. His body moved before fear could catch him. Training, instinct, and something deeper aligned in a single moment. His hand rose. The spear slammed into his palm with brutal force. Stone cracked beneath his boots as he absorbed the impact. Pain shot up his arm, but his grip held. The spear stopped. The entire arena went silent. Aaron stood there breathing hard, holding the weapon that should have ended his life. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the elders stood. A low sound spread through the Varkesh ranks, not anger, not cheers, but shock layered with something older. Law, Kalira froze. Her blood ran cold. She knew the law, every Varkesh did, the spear law. If a spear thrown in ritual intent is caught by the intended target, the thrower is bound to them, not as property, not as punishment, as forever bonded. A union recognized by law, spirit, and society. A rule created to honor impossible strength and fate itself. It had never happened with an outsider. It had never happened with a human. Aaron looked around, confused by the sudden tension. He slowly lowered the spear, offering it back with open hands. "I'm sorry," he said honestly. "I didn't know," an elder's voice thundered across the ground. "The law has been fulfilled." Kalira's world shattered. She fell to one knee, not in submission but in disbelief. Her people stared at her with wide eyes, some with pity, some with anger, some with fear. Aaron felt a knot tighten in his chest. He did not understand everything, but he understood enough to know this was bad. "I didn't mean to insult anyone," he said, louder now. "If this was a mistake, I'll accept responsibility." That too surprised them. The elders approached slowly. Their faces were unreadable. One of them spoke again, voice firm. "Human, you did not challenge, you did not throw, you only stood. That does not break the law." Aaron swallowed. "What does the law say?" The elder looked at Kalira, then back at Aaron. "By our law she is bound to you, and you to her." The words hit like a physical blow. Aaron did not smile. He did not boast. He simply stood there trying to process the weight of something he never wanted. Kalira rose slowly, her eyes burning, not with hatred but with humiliation. Her voice was low. "I will challenge this." The elder shook his head. "You cannot." Murmurs grew louder. Some warriors stepped forward, fists clenched. Humans were weak. Humans were temporary. This law was not meant for them. Aaron raised his hand slightly. "I don't want this to cause trouble if there's a way to fix it." "There is not," the elder said. "Law is law." The human delegation watched in disbelief. They had come for peace talks, not ancient binding rituals. Kalira turned away sharply and began to walk. By law, she could not strike him now. By law, she could not deny the bond publicly. Every step felt like her honor cracking beneath her feet. Aaron followed at a respectful distance, unsure what else to do. He could feel eyes on his back, some burning with anger, others with awe. That night the sky darkened over the Varkesh city. Fires burned high, not in celebration but in unrest. Whispers of broken tradition spread like sparks. Kalira stood alone on a high platform overlooking the city. Her hands trembled as she removed her helmet. She had thrown the spear to make a statement. Now the galaxy would remember her for something else entirely. Behind her, footsteps approached. She turned sharply, ready to fight, then stopped when she saw Aaron. He kept his distance, posture careful. "I won't touch you," he said quickly. They told me where to go." She stared at him, really stared. He was smaller, softer, but his eyes did not drop. They were steady, respectful, and burdened. "You shamed me," she said. "I know," he replied, "but I didn't plan it." Silence stretched between them. "You could have dodged," she said. He shook his head. "Maybe, but then the spear would have hit someone else." That answer unsettled her more than anger ever could. Below them, the city roared with distant voices. Tomorrow, councils would argue. Some would demand blood. Others would demand war. Kalira looked at the human bound to her by law she could not escape. "This bond may destroy us both," Aaron nodded. "Then we survive it together or not at all." For the first time since the spear left her hand, Kalira felt something unfamiliar, not defeat, uncertainty. And far above them, the stars watched as an ancient law collided with humanity's refusal to break. Morning came slowly on Carven, but peace did not come with it. The city woke to tension that pressed against stone walls and heavy doors. Varkesh warriors gathered in groups, speaking in low voices. Some looked toward the human quarters with anger. Others looked away, as if afraid to be seen thinking too much. Aaron Vale did not sleep well. He sat on the edge of the resting platform in the small chamber given to him, hands resting on his knees. The room was strong and simple, built for warriors, not comfort. He had replayed the moment again and again, the spear flying, the catch, the silence after. He still felt the weight of it in his palm. A soft but firm knock echoed against the door. He stood. "Come in." The door slid open. Two Varkesh guards stood there, tall and armored. Between them was Kalira. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp and tired. She did not look at Aaron at first. "The council summons us," one guard said. "Both," Aaron nodded. "Understood." As they walked through the city, people stopped to stare. Some warriors turned their backs. Others stared openly at Aaron, eyes full of disbelief. Kalira walked ahead of him, her posture straight, her steps strong, but Aaron could sense the storm inside her. They entered the hall of stone voices, where the elders gathered. The room was wide and circular. its walls carved with laws older than memory. Fires burned low along the edges. The elders stood in the center, waiting. One stepped forward. "The bond stands," he said immediately, his voice echoing. "But the consequences must be discussed." Kalira spoke before Aaron could. "This law was never meant for an outsider." "It was never meant to be tested," the elder replied. "Yet it has been." Another elder turned his gaze to Aaron. "Human, do you understand what this bond means?" Aaron took a breath. "I understand that your laws matter. I didn't come here to disrespect them." "I won't run from responsibility." Murmurs spread through the hall. Kalira's head turned slightly toward him. She had expected fear. She had expected excuses. This was neither. "There are those who will challenge this bond," an elder said. "Some will try to break it by force." Kalira's jaw tightened. "Then they will challenge me." "No," another elder said, "they will challenge him." Silence followed. Aaron felt it settle in his chest, heavy but clear. "Then I'll stand." Kalira turned fully now. "You don't understand our people. They won't fight fair." He met her gaze. "I've been in unfair fights before." The elders exchanged looks. "By law," one said, "the bonded pair must remain under protection until the bond is either honored or destroyed." Kalira's eyes narrowed. "Destroyed how?" The elder did not answer directly. "Leave us." They were escorted out without another word. As soon as they were beyond the hall, Kalira stopped and turned on Aaron. Her voice was low and sharp. "You should have kept quiet." "I wasn't trying to make things worse," he said calmly. "You don't see it," she said. "Your calm makes them angry. Humans are not supposed to accept fate here." He considered that. "Maybe that's why this happened." She stared at him, searching for mockery. She found none. They were assigned shared quarters by law, though separated by distance and barriers. The space was large, with stone walls and a high ceiling. Kalira moved to one side without a word. Aaron set his pack down on the other. Hours passed in silence. As the suns lowered, footsteps approached fast. The door opened violently. 3 Varkesh warriors stormed in. Their armor was marked with challenge symbols. One pointed a blade at Aaron. "This bond is an insult." Kalira stepped between them instantly. "Leave." "You defend him," one demanded. "I defend the law," she replied. The warrior laughed harshly. "Then die with it." He lunged. Aaron moved before thought. He grabbed the warrior's wrist, twisted, and used the attacker's momentum to slam him into the stone floor. The impact echoed through the chamber. The other two hesitated for half a second, long enough. Kalira struck next. Her movements were fast, controlled, devastating. In seconds, the attackers were disarmed and forced back. Guards arrived moments later, weapons raised. The chamber fell silent again. The guards dragged the attackers away. Kalira stood still, breathing hard. Aaron felt the adrenaline drain from his body. "You should not have stepped in," she said finally. "You were defending me," he replied. "That makes us even." She did not answer. Word spread quickly. The bond was no longer just law, it was blood-tested. That night, Kalira stood at the window looking out at the dark city. Aaron approached slowly, careful not to crowd her. "I don't want to trap you," he said quietly. "If there's a way to end this without breaking your world, I'll take it." She laughed once without humor. "There is no gentle path in Varkesh law." She turned to face him. "You are not weak. That confuses them." "And you?" he asked. She hesitated. "It confuses me too." The next day brought worse news. An elder arrived with guards and heavy silence. "The council has decided a trial will be held." Kalira's eyes hardened. "What kind of trial?" "A bond trial," the elder said. "Strength, loyalty, and worth." Aaron nodded. "When?" "At dawn." The trial grounds were filled again, but the mood was darker. This was no display. This was judgment. The first test was endurance. Both were made to stand beneath crushing heat without armor or aid. Kalira endured easily. Aaron's skin burned, sweat pouring, but he did not step away. The second test was cooperation. They were bound together and forced to cross a shifting stone field. When Kalira slipped, Aaron took the strain without complaint. When Aaron faltered, Kalira supported him without hesitation. Whispers grew louder. The final test was combat, not against each other, but against a controlled war beast released into the arena. The creature charged with raw force. Kalira moved to strike, but Aaron shouted a warning. He saw a pattern she did not. He drew the beast's attention, leading it into position. Kalira struck true, ending the fight. The arena fell silent. The elders watched closely. That night, as they returned to their quarters, Kalira finally spoke words she had held back. "You could have let it kill you, ended the bond." He shook his head. "I don't survive by quitting." She studied him in the low light. "If you stay, this world will never be gentle to you." He met her gaze steadily. "I didn't come to the stars for gentle." For the first time, Kalira did not turn away. Outside, unseen eyes watched them. Forces within and beyond Carven were already moving. The bond had survived challenge, but the galaxy was not done testing it. And neither were they. The days after the trial did not bring relief. Instead, they brought attention. Too much of it. Across Carven, warriors spoke the names of Kalira and the human who had survived the bond trial. Some spoke with respect, others with resentment. Tradition had been tested, but tradition does not like to bend quietly. Aaron trained every day. He trained because he had to. Not to impress, not to prove dominance, but because weakness here meant death, not only for him, but for Kalira as well. The bond tied their fates together in ways deeper than law. If he failed, her honor would fall with him. Kalira watched him from a distance at first. She saw how he learned. He did not rush. He did not complain. When Varkesh instructors corrected him harshly, he listened. When he was thrown to the ground, he stood back up, again and again. He was slower than her people, smaller, but he adapted. That unsettled many. One afternoon, as Aaron practiced spear defense with weighted training rods, a shadow fell across the ground. Kalira stepped into view, her expression unreadable. "You adjust too quickly," she said. He wiped sweat from his brow. "Humans don't survive long if we don't." She circled him slowly. "You do not fight like prey." "No," he said. "We fight like we plan to come home." She stopped in front of him. "Tomorrow the council meets again." Aaron nodded. "That doesn't sound good." "They fear what you represent," she said. "Not you alone." "But what follows?" Before he could respond, alarms sounded across the city, deep, heavy, war alarms. Kalira's head snapped toward the horizon. Her hand moved to her weapon without thought. "That is not internal." Explosions followed moments later, far off but unmistakable. An elder's voice echoed through public channels. "All warriors to defense positions. This is not a drill." Aaron felt the ground vibrate beneath his boots. "Who's attacking?" Kalira's voice was grim. "The Cathari Dominion." The name carried weight even to human ears. The Cathari were conquerors. They watched weakness and struck fast. "They believe we are divided," she continued. "And they are right." The sky darkened as enemy ships broke through the atmosphere. Defensive cannons roared to life. The city became chaos in seconds. Kalira turned to Aaron. "You stay here." He shook his head immediately. "No, this is not a debate," she said sharply. "You are not Varkesh." "I am bound," he replied. "That makes this my fight too." She hesitated, just for a second. That was all the opening he needed. They ran together through the streets as warriors mobilized around them. Aaron moved with purpose, eyes scanning, mind calculating. Human soldiers had fought invaders before. The shapes were different, but fear was the same. At the outer defense line, Varkesh units struggled. The Cathari advanced with heavy armor and aerial support, pushing hard at weak points. Aaron saw it immediately. "They're testing the center," Kalira frowned. "The center is strongest." "Not today," he said. "Everyone expects you to defend it. That's why they'll break it." She looked at the formation again. Slowly, her eyes widened. "They're drawing us in," she said. "Exactly." Kalira made a fast decision. She turned and shouted orders, redirecting units, reinforcing flanks, setting traps instead of walls. Some warriors hesitated. Then they obeyed. The Cathari charged, and hit nothing but controlled retreat. When their forces overextended, Varkesh counterattacked with brutal precision. Aaron fought beside Kalira, using speed and awareness rather than raw strength. He shouted warnings, covered blind angles, dragged wounded warriors to safety. At one point, a Cathari shock unit broke through near the command ridge. Kalira was pinned by suppressive fire. Aaron saw it. He didn't think. He ran straight into the open. Blaster fire burned the air around him. He slid behind wreckage, threw a charge he had taken from a fallen enemy and detonated the cover. The explosion broke the line just long enough. Kalira surged forward and ended the threat. When it was over, smoke filled the air. The battlefield fell silent except for the wounded and the dying. Varkesh warriors looked at the human differently now. Not as an accident, as a shield. Hours later, the Cathari withdrew, not defeated, but repelled. The cost was high. As medics worked, elders gathered near the front lines. One approached Aaron and Kalira together. "The Dominion will return," the elder said. "Stronger," Aaron nodded. "Then we prepare." The elder studied him. "You speak as if you belong." Kalira answered before he could. "By law he does." Silence followed. That night they stood together on the battlements, watching fires burn where the enemy had fallen. "You saved lives today," Kalira said quietly. "So did you." She shook her head. "Without your insight, we would have lost the center. The city might have fallen." Aaron looked out at the dark sky. "Strength isn't just muscle," she glanced at him. "That idea frightens my people." "It frightened mine too," he replied. For a long moment neither spoke. Then Kalira said something unexpected. "When I threw that spear, I wanted to prove humans did not belong." He turned to her. "Now," she continued, "I fear what will happen if you leave." Aaron met her gaze. "I'm not planning to." Her breath caught slightly, just slightly. Below them, messengers arrived with grim news. The Cathari were calling allies. This was no raid. It was the beginning of a campaign. The council convened immediately. Inside the hall of stone voices, arguments erupted. Some elders demanded isolation. Others demanded submission to avoid extinction. Aaron listened. Then he stepped forward. "I know I'm not one of you," he said calmly, "but I know war and I know predators." The hall quieted. "The Cathari don't fear your strength," he continued. "They fear unity. Right now they believe you are split between law and pride." Kalira stood beside him. "Then we show them they are wrong." An elder narrowed his eyes. "You would have us follow a human?" Aaron shook his head. "No, I would have you fight as yourselves. I'll just help you see what the enemy sees." Silence stretched. Then one elder struck his staff against the stone. "Let the bonded pair lead the defense strategy." Gasps echoed. Kalira stiffened. Aaron felt the weight drop onto both of them at once. Outside the hall, as they walked together, Kalira finally spoke the truth she had avoided. "This war will define us," she said. "If we fail, history will blame the bond." Aaron nodded. "If we succeed," she looked at him, "then the law will change the galaxy." Above them, the stars burned cold and patient. The Cathari were coming back. And this time, humanity would stand at the center of an alien war, not as conquerors, not as guests, but as something far more dangerous. Partners. The city of Carven was alive with preparation. Every street echoed with hurried footsteps, clanging weapons, and the low hum of energy fields being activated. The Cathari were coming back, larger and stronger than before. This time, there would be no small raid, no minor skirmish. The stakes were survival itself. Aaron walked beside Kalira through the training grounds. Warriors stopped to salute them or to whisper, some with awe, some with doubt. The bond between human and huntress had already started reshaping their people's perception of strength, and now, as war approached, it was impossible to ignore. Kalira glanced at him, her expression hard but thoughtful. "The council has approved your participation in the front strategy," she said. "You will not be ignored this time." Aaron shook his head slightly. I never wanted to lead, I just want to survive. And yet, Kalira said quietly, the enemy assumes we are weak. That is why they will lose. They moved to the command center, a circular room filled with holographic maps and projections of the incoming Kethari forces. Elders, generals, and other key warriors were already present, all casting looks of skepticism toward Aaron. He ignored them. His eyes scanned the enemy formations, noting weaknesses, patterns, and possible traps. Kalira stood by his side, her spear at rest but ready. "Explain," she said, nodding toward the projection. Aaron pointed to the advancing units. "They are confident in speed and overwhelming firepower. They will focus on the center first, expecting the flanks to collapse. If we reinforce flanks and use mobile units to create false retreats, we can force them into choke points. Then our artillery and reserve squads can cut them off." Murmurs spread. Some elders were skeptical. One older warrior stepped forward, voice sharp. "You are human. You do not understand carven terrain." Aaron met his gaze evenly. "I understand strategy. Terrain is only part of the equation. Confidence, timing, and adaptability matter more." Kalira placed a hand on his shoulder briefly. It was a silent acknowledgement she trusted him. That simple gesture sent a ripple through the room. Slowly, others began to listen. By dawn, the city was ready. Defenses had been repositioned, soldiers briefed, and traps set. Aaron moved among the troops, answering questions, giving encouragement, and showing no sign of fear. The first wave of Kethari ships pierced the morning fog. Their armor gleamed in the rising suns, their weapons trained on the city walls. Screams and blaster fire followed immediately. Kalira charged to the front lines, spear in hand. Aaron followed, alert and ready. They moved in perfect sync, anticipating each other's actions. When Kethari shock units descended to breach the walls, Aaron shouted warnings and directed troops to intercept them. Kalira struck with precision, dismantling the leading units before they could gain ground. The battle raged for hours. Human and Varkesh forces fought side by side, adapting faster than the Kethari expected. Aaron's tactical suggestions allowed the defenders to exploit enemy patterns. He moved through the battlefield like a shadow, small but impossible to ignore. At one point, a Kethari commander unleashed a massive assault directly on the central citadel. Kalira was engaged with a squad of elite warriors and could not see the main threat. Aaron calculated rapidly, moving through a narrow gap to intercept. He threw a small explosive at a group of advancing enemies, causing them to scatter. Kalira noticed the opening and drove forward, cutting through the remaining units with deadly precision. When the dust settled temporarily, Kalira and Aaron stood together atop the citadel walls. Below, the city's warriors regrouped, inspired by the human who refused to yield. Even the most skeptical elders had to admit, his presence had changed the battle. Aaron looked at Kalira, eyes tired but alert. "They will regroup, this isn't over," she nodded. "And when they return, we will be ready, together." The Kethari withdrew as evening fell, but the attack had left scars. Fires burned across districts, and wounded warriors were tended to in triage zones. Aaron assisted wherever he could, moving from one injured soldier to another, offering comfort and practical help. His willingness to put himself in danger for others, humans and Varkesh alike, began to reshape perceptions across the city. Night brought a temporary lull. Kalira led him to a high platform overlooking the city, where the air was cooler and the fires below cast long shadows. "They are going to return," she said quietly, "stronger, better prepared." Aaron leaned on the railing, watching the dark horizon. "And so will we. We've shown them that unity matters more than size or tradition." Kalira studied him. "You've changed more than just the battlefield. You've changed my people's understanding of strength. They can see it now, that humans can be more than we expected." He shook his head slightly. "I'm not special. I just don't give up." She laughed softly, almost a whisper. Sometimes the simplest things are the most dangerous. Courage, loyalty, resilience, you have them in abundance. Aaron looked at her, surprised. I didn't come here to prove anything to anyone. But you have, she said, voice firm. And now we are bound. Not by fear, not by tradition alone, but by respect. Below them, the city settled into uneasy silence. The fires of the first attack still burned, but the people were alive, stronger than before. And in the distance, the Cathari ships disappeared beyond the horizon, plotting their return. The next day, Aaron and Kalira addressed the council together. Every word, every motion was deliberate. Aaron's calm logic balanced Kalira's fierce authority. The elders listened, weighing the humans' advice alongside the huntress's experience. Slowly, decisions were made that unified the city, strengthened its defenses, and prepared for the Cathari's inevitable return. As they left the hall, Kalira glanced at Aaron. Do you understand what you've done? He shook his head. Not fully. I just know we survive because we fight as one. She smiled faintly. And because you never doubted the bond, even when everyone else did. For the first time, Aaron saw her not just as a warrior bound to him by law, but as someone who respected, even admired him. And he felt the bond in a new way, not as a burden but as a shared strength. The horizon glimmered with the first light of dawn, promising a new day of struggle, strategy, and survival. The bond between human and huntress had been tested in law, in blood, and in fire. It had survived. And with it, the city of Carven, their people, and the hope for unity in the galaxy had survived too. Together, they turned to face the rising sun. The Cathari would return, but the legend of a human who caught a spear and refused to yield would stand long after the battle was over. The galaxy would remember that even the smallest, most underestimated being could alter the course of history, not through raw power alone, but through courage, loyalty, and the refusal to surrender. And so, as the two stood atop the citadel, watching the city awaken, both knew one thing with certainty. The bond was forever, not because law demanded it, but because they had earned it through shared struggle, unshakable courage, and the undeniable truth that humanity, in its quiet strength, could change the galaxy.